everybody. We're back today with another episode of Howie's Hometown Heroes, where we feature business owners, entrepreneurs, and community members who are doing extraordinary, amazing things right there in their community, your community, like everywhere they are, right? Today, we're in Portland, Connecticut, which is near Hartford, kind of like in the middle of the state there. We're with Erin Gatto. Erin is like I've known her for a couple of months, I think. She has got more things to be impressed about than anybody, for sure. So let me just give you a little hint of what's going on in her life, or what has been going on, right? So she actually was a professional soccer player. But before that, she was in school playing soccer. And before that, she went to Syracuse University, was not only the top scorer of all time of women's soccer at Syracuse. Nobody's breaking her record, that's for sure, unless maybe they take 6 years of college. I don't know. And she's in the Orange Plus. Orange Plus is the Syracuse Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame of Syracuse. I mean, this is like unbelievable to me. To be able to talk to a professional athlete, to me, is like, I'm like, what's it called? Gaga about this stuff. So, also, now, that's pretty impressive right there. Take that into the professional realm and a career. She said she always wanted to be a teacher. So a teacher, and you want to be a teacher for the rest of her life. It was the greatest thing ever. We're going to find out about that. But the twist is, it didn't turn out to be as great as she thought it was, at least at the place. So to have the courage to move on from something that she loved to do because of the circumstance, that's a pretty big deal when you can make that switch and make yourself better by moving on. People say she is really authentic. There's no hidden agenda. What you see is what you get, and I love what I see, for sure. And we have a great relationship moving forward, so that's really good. So thanks for being here, Erin. This is really awesome. I'm really looking forward to having this nice chat with you.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited that we could get our schedules synced.
Yeah, boy, talk about technology and schedules. What a fun thing we're trying to go. So that's, and we always say God blesses the flexible, because they don't get bent out of shape. That's the way we're looking at it.
There you go.
There you go. All right, so let's go back to the beginning. What got you started with teaching? What was it in 7th grade, whenever it was, that you said, I want to be a teacher? What happened?
So my mom ran a home daycare since I was probably 2 or 3. She used to take care of some, I'm the youngest of 5. And so she was always watching, kids of friends before they got to school, get them on the bus. And then she turned it into a profession and ran a home daycare for 40 years.
Oh my God, 40 years.
Yeah, she's a saint.
Sure.
And so I was always around kids, watching them grow up, watching them learn. She was just amazing at teaching them all sorts of things about life and getting along. And I thought, you know what? I want to be a part of this. I don't want to run a daycare. So I don't want to do all the diapers, but I want to be a part of changing kids' lives the way.
Good. So that's where so that's moving forward. Good. That's a good start. And did you do any other kinds of teaching in high school and stuff? That was part of the daycare thing? Did you do anything outside of that?
I did coaching and babysitting. Like I had several babysitting gigs, usually of the kids that my mom looked after during the day. I would babysit them when their parents went out at night. So they already knew my family.
Okay, so that was an easy connection.
Yeah.
So while you're out babysitting, the parents are off doing whatever you're doing, right? So did you teach them how to read? Did you do anything? Like, what did you do?
No, teaching kids how to read is very complex, which I learned in my last few years of teaching. I taught kindergarten, and teaching kids to read involves so many things, but it's so amazing when that magic happens.
Yeah, I bet.
And I know, like, wow, I taught you how to read. You're going to read the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And I taught you that. So that's a really cool thing.
That's right. Yeah. You never know what an impact you're going to have on anybody, kids or adults, in what you do. So that's really very good. And when you say that magic, how does that makes you feel when somebody gets it?
Oh, that aha moment when you're working with a student. And I taught many different grades in elementary school. So the aha moments are all very different.
Hmm.
It could be that they've figured out how to multiply by nines and they
Or
learned the
something.
trick and they can get it, or they learned what vowel sounds are,
No.
or it could be that they learned they have to say sorry even when they bump into someone by accident. So there are so many aha moments that you get to have with kids. And one of my favorite things about teaching was I always tell my students, I want to teach you more than school stuff. Like, I'm going to teach
Oh.
you reading, I'm going to teach you writing, I'm going to teach you math, but I also want to teach you how to be a good friend and how to apologize when you make a mistake, and how to continue a friendship after a fight. And so I
Oh.
always wove those things into my teaching because those are so important, right? You're not going to get along in life if you only know how to read, but you can't interact with another human. So I
Oh.
always
Yes.
tried to fit those things in, because I was their teacher of all things for that year, not
Yeah.
just the subjects.
So the life skill, sort of life skills, at least interaction skills, and how to be a good person is the idea.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
when I did kindergarten, we talked about a lot of about feelings and emotions and big feelings and how to handle them. And there's a thing where there's like 4 different zones. It's called the zones of regulation, where kids can kind of get themselves settled again. And so I taught it to them, and we would talk about it. And blue is a sad day, so kids would come in, they're like, I'm feeling blue today. My brother got the biggest pancake. And then someone else would come in like, I'm feeling yellow. We're going. They just really started to identify it and recognize that they could control their emotions. That just
Ah.
because I'm in the blue zone right now, I'm not going to stay in the blue zone. I'm going to get to the green zone, which is really feeling good and happy.
Uh-huh.
And so teaching them that their emotions change and that they can do things to help it, was my favorite.
I think adults should take that to learn that too.
A
I mean,
1000%. And I'll
yeah.
tell you, so the red zone is when you're out of control. And I would have students who would say, Mrs. Gatto, I think so and so is in the red zone. He just threw a book, and I was like, yeah, he might be in the red zone. What should
What
he
should we
try?
do? Yeah.
What should he try? And their kids are like, he could read a book, he could do his breathing, to get a drink. And they would all share strategies. And then if the kid was able to do it, because I wouldn't do it for him, because then he would just learn that he needs an adult to solve his problems. And so little by little, he would make his way back, and we'd say, hey, how'd you get back out of the red zone? I read a book, or, I held a stuffed animal. And so just teaching them that they were
All
empowered
right.
was so important to me. And also that you're gonna struggle. Like, we would always say, don't steal someone's struggle. If they're having a hard time, you can't help them unless they've asked for help, because if you just keep jumping in and doing it for them, they're going to learn that it's not okay to struggle. And I would have parents tell me, at home, they're telling me, Mom, don't steal my struggle, I can do this. And so just trying to create that mindset of these kiddos that life is going to be hard. That's normal. Expect it, but that you're tough and you can solve it.
Yeah.
So that
Wow.
was what I,
That is incredible. I
yeah,
mean, I wonder I'm in the green zone now, thankfully,
you're in the,
because I'm
I
with
know,
you, 'cause that's
me
good.
too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's pretty cool. Wow. This is really incredible. I've never,
It's really cool.
is that something you learn in school, or is that something you figured out, or like,
No, our school psychologist did it with some like students with special needs to help them
okay.
regulate their emotions.
Uh-huh.
And my sister, excuse me, is a preschool teacher, and she was working on some things with her students. And I'm like, wait, everyone needs this.
This,
Like,
yeah.
this isn't just for students with special needs. Like,
Yeah.
every kid has to recognize and regulate emotions. And
Oh, yeah.
so I just found ways, went online and found different ways to make it age appropriate.
Yeah.
I had a calming corner in my classroom so that kids could, take a break to go. We would always talk about go feel your feelings and
Yeah.
then you come back.
Come back.
And it was when parents would come in for open house, they'd all be like, where's the calming corner? I keep hearing all about the calming corner. And it was never, calming corner was never about punishment. It was their choice if they needed it. And we had like a little sand timer that when it was over,
Okay.
you come
You
back
come
and
back.
play.
Do you have any experiences of kids that you've seen years after had that they had an experience with you? What
Yeah.
do the kids
All,
remember and do that?
all over town. At Brugger's one day, I was going through the drive-through and I handed her my money and she goes, are you Miss O'Grady? Because that's was my name before I got married. Okay. And I said, yeah. And I looked at her, I go, are you Ashley C? And she was, a 20-year-old. And once I looked at her eyes, I was like, I know you. Yeah. So because they're part of your family for a year and then they move on. I still get Christmas cards from families that I've taught that are, long gone. And I just love to see how they've grown.
One of the things as a bumper sticker maybe that I've seen, and one of them was, I'm a teacher and I see the future.
That's cool.
I thought that was the coolest thing ever seen, right?
I like that. There's another meme of, it's like these two characters with like I don't know if it's like a monk or a Jedi or something walking in between them, and the two characters are little. And then it cuts to one where those two characters are big and he's like the little old man. How it like shifts that who's doing the teaching
who's doing the teaching. Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Well, this is great. We could talk about that all day. Jeez, that sounds a lot of fun. All right. So now let's move into a little older, and you're older.
Yeah.
What got you involved in soccer? How did that how'd that come about?
I'm the youngest of 5, and I was always dragged to soccer games of my brothers, and I hated it. I swore I will never play soccer. I hate soccer. And then in 2nd grade, a few of my friends were playing soccer. So I'm like,
well, I guess I'll
play soccer. I played, in my town, and then I expanded and played on what's called a premier team. So it's kids from all over the state that play together. And those girls ended up, becoming some of my best friends. We didn't go to school together, but we were all in each other's weddings. We still talk every day. There's a group of 5 of us that now our kids all talk to each other. We get together over the summer and at Christmas. We do a get together. So now our kids are being raised, even though we all live all over the country now. Our kids are getting to know each other. So
wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I fell in love with that team aspect of it. I also was a gymnast. But gymnastics was so individual. Right. I loved how in soccer, if I was struggling, a teammate could pick me up. If I'm on the beam as a gymnast, no one else can get me out of that funk or that trick because I'm up there by myself. So I loved them both for different reasons, but soccer really captured my heart.
That team aspect. It really is
Totally.
Whether it's sports or anything else, even.
Yeah.
Being on a team, you really
having a team
build each other up and
and be willing to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And let them see your weaknesses. I think a lot of times adults have trouble being vulnerable or showing their vulnerabilities, where when you're an athlete on a team, they see your vulnerabilities, right? They see you miss a penalty kick, or they see you get hurt and need surgery, or they see that you're really not good at heading, and you pick each other up and kind of fill in the pieces for each other.
You get that encouragement from each other too, and that builds that energy of the whole team makes a big difference.
Yeah, and their skills balancing your weaknesses is I think it's what makes athletes, whether or not they don't have to make it to the pro level, but athletes learn so many lessons on the field that have nothing to do with sports or the sport itself. I think it's just such a good, authentic way for kids to learn winning and losing, picking up a teammate, how to be a good teammate, that you're not always going to make the team. There's just so many things that you get to learn from being on a sport.
You know what that sounds like?
What?
Kindergarten.
Yeah, it does. Everything I learned.
Yeah, exactly. So there.
Yeah.
So all right, so that was cool, kind of go all through high school and stuff, and now went to Syracuse for.
Yep.
Did you get recruited there to play soccer, or did you get go to for
Yeah, I got,
teaching, or how'd that work out?
well, I had narrowed it down because I knew I wanted to be a teacher. So I narrowed it down to about 5 schools within, driving distance to my house. And it really came down to Syracuse or UConn. And Syracuse was a brand new program.
Mhm.
UConn was well established. And I thought, if I go to UConn, I'm just going to be another player on the roster and they're still going to be a good team. If I go to Syracuse, maybe I can help put them on the map and I can,
Wow.
again, make that difference. I really liked being a part of that challenge of starting something new. And so
There you are.
it was great. I'm still very close with, about 15 of my teammates that I played with at Syracuse too.
Wow. And that was like the all-time leading scorer. That's pretty
Yeah.
impressive. Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually, because the program was so new, as a freshman, I scored, I think 17, 18, 19 goals as a freshman. And so I was the leading scorer in the history of the program in my first year there, right? A couple months in. And then each year I scored more goals, I got more assists. And so it just kind of stayed that way. But I graduated in 2001 and it's still the record. I actually want someone to break it because it would mean the program is doing so well. They've had some ups and downs with some coaching changes, and now they're in a much harder conference. So,
Okay.
Still rooting hard for them. And I would love the record to be broken because it would mean that they were crushing it. So I'll just stay tuned for that.
So there's once again, you're looking out for somebody else. You want somebody else to succeed and not just hold that record for you. Yeah, that's
absolutely. I mean,
yeah.
it was fun to have it when I was there, but now I'm way past my prime. Someone else should have that record.
Very good. That's what an attitude to be that way. And where does that go? Where does that come back to? Kindergarten.
Kindergarten. Yes,
Everything comes back to
I want
kindergarten.
people to learn.
Yeah. So cool. So now, all right. So you're in teaching, doing all kinds of teaching, helping little kids, making real good progress with kids, seeing them in the supermarket, whatever. Yeah. And now we're moving on to another phase. Not to get into all the nitty gritty detail, but about some challenges you might have had in school and you said having the courage to move on. What was going through your head, to do that?
So education has changed a lot. It was already changing before the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And then the pandemic just changed teaching so much. What I loved about a classroom was becoming a family. And when we went back, it was, you can't touch each other. You can't share crayons. Everyone's hiding behind a mask. It was so rules based, yet I still had to teach them social skills because they couldn't learn them outside because they weren't going anywhere outside of school. And because the higher ups recognized there was learning loss over the years that the kids weren't in school or we were doing virtual, it just became very scripted, and here are the lessons, make sure you say this on this day. And that, to me, that's not teaching. Like it got to the point where I couldn't take the time to ask them like, oh, wow, your puppy died. How do you feel about that? And talk to the class like, well, what do you guys think we can do to help her feel better? All those things that make me a great teacher, I wasn't allowed to do anymore. Or I had to look over my shoulder to see if my administrator was coming in. And I get it from her point, admin were trying to
they got a job
they were trying to help with the learning loss. In my opinion, taking that nurturing and that trust in teachers out did the opposite to help with learning loss. So it just became, I had a really, really tough time with that. And my mother also passed that same year. And it was a culture in the building where I didn't feel like I could take time off even for the funeral. So I only took a couple days off, but not enough for how big a part my mom was in my life.
Sure.
And, they observed me right after I got back
Oh
from
man. Yeah.
from the funeral. So it just became very evident that I was not valued and that I couldn't be successful in their eyes. And as a perfectionist, people pleaser, type A, go getter, professional athlete,
Yeah.
if I work harder, it'll happen. And I just tried to do everything they asked, but the goalpost kept moving. And it was hard. I fell into a depression. And after my mom passed, it was one of those kind of gut check moments where I went, I can't live like this. I'm only halfway into my career. I have little kids that I'm too tired to talk to my kids after school. I'm so depleted from what it takes to teach kindergarten or
Yeah.
teach in general, because I'm hearing it from friends that are in all different grades, that I wasn't me. I wasn't available for my kids. And, I'm big into meditating, and I had done a meditation, and in the meditation, I jumped through a purple portal. And on the other side, I felt so happy, and it was getting out of teaching. And that was the first moment I went, wait a minute, I can do something different. I don't have to be a teacher my whole life, but that's what, you go into teaching, you're a teacher till you retire, right? That's what everyone does. And it's a stable job. In Connecticut, we make good money as teachers. But I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it to my family. I couldn't do it to myself. My 12-year-old said, Mom, I think we'd have a better relationship if you had a different job. And that was kind of like
Oh, wow. Kids.
the knife in the heart that made me say, something's got to change. I can't do this. So
yeah, kids are so
I
much more
resigned.
perceptive than you give them credit for sometimes.
Yeah. In helping me see, I was thinking just plug along. But it wasn't going to get better. So I resigned. I finished the year. I told them in April that, I'm resigning effective at the end of the year. And it's been a pleasure to teach in the town that I grew up in. All the best. And then in January, I started a program to become an instructional designer. So still taking what I know about education and teaching, but now doing it to be able to help companies deliver virtual training. So instead of me delivering it, it's me creating it for others to deliver. And honestly, that piece had long since gone away in teaching. I wasn't allowed to develop.
Oh, that's right. Because you had to deliver what somebody else created, right? So now you can
script. And then I was like, it like re-energized me. And it was hard. It was like a master's degree that I did in 9 months. My kids were like, you're always on your computer. I'm like, I know, but I'm doing this so I can leave teaching. And so it was really important for me to learn through that program. They were very supportive, and they wanted you to ask questions, and they wanted you to share your mistakes. And that was something we had learned was not allowed. That if you made a mistake or admitted that something went wrong, it was not good. So I had just kind of internalized over the years that you can't ask for help. And so doing that program, besides learning all these new skills, to rewire my brain to say, wait, you're not a problem just because you ask for help. Like we should be asking for help, right? Try it on your own first, but if you can't solve it, reach out to someone who can.
Else.
And that doesn't make you a problem or weak. And so that was important learning I had done.
So for everybody who's out there, if you know somebody who is as awesome and has done all the things that Erin has done, let me know. Let's put their name in the comments below, and we'll get them on the show and be able to tell their story, because it's really important for people who not so much struggle or change or whatever your life story is, to get that out there, because you can make an impact on other people that you'll never meet. But it is really important for you to be able to do that. So, put their names in the comments below. And just so you know, whether it's your family, your community, your business, right? It's money that make the gears turn. Make sure your money is working in the most optimal way it can. Thanks for being here, Erin. This is fun.
Thank you for having me. This was a blast.